In Tourist Presents, on the ancient land of Uzbekistan today. What is this dance about? Is it about the beautiful land of Uzbekistan, or does it tell how the sunshine caresses the plantations? The Uzbek maiden inherited the language of the dance from her ancestors, but today the dance is about the new way of life of this ancient people. To better understand her story, let us begin from times immemorial. The time when only the caravan routes crossed the scorched desert, and the fantastic silhouettes of camels disrupted its monotony. After many days of journeying, the desert presented the tired traveler with a fairy tale vision. This vision was Hiva, a city given birth by the desert. It seemed as if the inner forces of the earth raised the sands, forming cupolas, clay buildings with flat roofs, and stone walls. Hiva is a city with a 1,000-year history. It is an integral architectural ensemble unequaled in Central Asia. Here, modern man becomes submerged in the atmosphere and life of the past centuries. Once upon a time, great civilizations were born and died here: Bactria, Sogdiana, Khwarezm. Blossoming towns often owed their existence to just a spring of water bubbling from the earth. Water in these lands was valued higher than human life. The ancient structures of Uzbekistan depended on precious water and on the ability to store it. This is Sardaba, a water reservoir 1,000 years old. Take the sacred spring Cheshma Ayub. The source here is still bubbling over. This was the starting point of Bukhara, capital of the Bukhara Khanat, a city of famed architects, mathematicians, and astronomers. Firdousi, Rudaki, and Avicenna lived here. Only yellow bricks were used to build the walls of this mausoleum. The skill of bricklayers was so great that they achieved an effect by the pattern of ornamentation changes depending on whether the wall is lighted by the sun or the moon. The artisans and craftsmen have made Bukhara famous for 10 centuries. The traditions of their forebears live on to this day. Gold thread embroidery is complex and delicate work, requiring endless fantasy and boundless patience. Tourists step from the shaded cool lobby of the hotel onto the scorching hot cobblestones of the street. It is like stepping from the 20th century back to ancient times. Modern living makes itself known all the time. This is what a modern reservoir looks like, and it hardly resembles ancient Sardoba. The irrigated soils of Uzbekistan have become a flowering oasis. This is the best place in the country for growing cotton. Today, the Republic harvests a crop of 6 million tons. The Europeans who like wearing modern clothes manufactured from cotton see for the first time how this culture is grown. Maybe the passion for traveling is born of the desire to see how other people live. This is why so many tourists wish to visit Uzbek collective farms. This is a kolkhoz museum of folklore and everyday life of the people. Its exhibits are the things which had been used by the ancestors of contemporary peasants. Warm-hearted and generous hospitality for the guest is a tradition passed from generation to generation in the Orient. Samarkand was formerly the capital of the great realm of Timur. This ruler wanted his home city to outdazzle all the cities of the world. Tourists are inexhaustibly curious. Their thirst for novelty can hardly be slaked, just as the thirst of a wanderer in the desert. The flood of impressions which engulfs strangers in the ancient towns of Uzbekistan simply stuns them. It is just as hard to show all the places of interest in Samarkand as it is to take in all the details of the unique Oriental patterns on ornaments. One cannot just pass by the gigantic necropolis of Shahi Zind with its mosques and mausoleums. Or remain indifferent to the mausoleum of Hur Emir, the architectural solution of which is still an enigma. This is the site of the tombs of the formidable conqueror Timur and the great philosopher Ulugbek. This secton was part of the equipment of the Grand Observatory founded by Ulugbek. The International Astronomical Station, not far from Samarkand, was named after the great scholar. An oriental bazaar sprawls at the walls of the grandiose ruins of the Bibi Hanum Mosque, like a gigantic living fresco. The juices of the earth, mixed with sunshine, produce this fragrant wine. Uzbekistan produces more than a third of those valuable caracal skins grown in the USSR. In ancient times, this was the caravan route known in history as the Great Silken Way. The town of Shahrizad, which means green town in the vernacular, was founded in the hollow at the foot of the Zerafshan mountain range in the 3rd century BC. The monuments of Uzbekistan are just as amazing for their architecture as for the incredible wealth of their ornamentation. wood carvings, maiolica, tile mosaic work, incrustations of ivory and mother of pearl, as well as vegetative ornamentation, created the conception Oriental luxury. But all these treasures were shaped by the hands of folk artisans who preserve the traditions of their handicrafts to this day. Uzbek women weave their famed silk fabrics on new modern looms, thus creating their own great silken way. The nature of Uzbekistan is of immense variety and richness. Uzbekistan in our time is a wealthy, highly developed republic. Its capital, Tashkent, is a modern city living in the rhythms of the 20th century, retaining the original and expressive features of a rich national culture. The tour of Uzbekistan begins in Tashkent. Tourists start here and return full of vivid impressions. They can apply to tourist agencies in regard to anything that interests them and may be sure of immediate assistance. Hardly anyone will be indifferent to the spicy Uzbek cuisine. In the evening, these tables will be excellent as subject matter for bright and juicy still life paintings. It's a pleasure to relax after a long, hot day in a chaikhana tea house, where the water of the pool and the oriental cock tea replenish freshness and vigor. Why is it so hot in Uzbekistan? Is it because the sun shines all the year round? Or because of the generous warmth of human hands, smiles, and hearts? This film was commissioned by the main board of foreign tourism under the USSR Council of Ministers, an Uzbek popular science and documentary film studios production.